Welcome. Good evening, Purple Viking fans. This is Justin in Rochester, and this is A Day with Mike and Kyla, coming to you to review Week 1, the Vikings' victory over the hated Green Bay Packers. I'll start with you, Kyla, because this is the first time that all three of us have finally done a show together. We've had some substitutions and hits in, but first off, how you doing and your initial thoughts?
Awesome. It's always good beating the Packers, starting out the season with a victory. We haven't had a winning record since the end of 2019, I think. So a great way to enter the Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi era. Like I said, it's the Packers. There's no one we want to beat more. It's our Super Bowl, right, guys?
We finally won one. Mike, you have some extra paraphernalia tonight here. Mike, what's going on with you?
Is it Christmas already? I got everything I've already wanted. We beat the Packers down to a pulp. And it looks like we got a new identity, ladies and gentlemen. I am so excited for the season now, more than ever.
Well, just let everybody know we are going to be on every Monday evening from 6:30 Central to 7:15, leading you into Monday Night Football. We're going to have Rick join us here in just a few moments. But before we get started, we always have to throw some love to our sponsors here. So our first one here is Rinaldi's. They are our title sponsor here. And they are located in Woodbury, right off the intersection of 494 and Valley Creek. My understanding is if you go back into the podcast feed, Rick and SK were in town running a show. Now, granted, it's a pregame show, so at this point it's not. But there were a few moments in there that you're going to want to take a look at there. So, again, there we go. So, again, Wood Lane Drive, right off of I-94 and Valley Creek Road. And our second sponsor is Nautical Bulls. They're located in Woodbury as well, so you can hit them both up in the same day. They're located on Hudson Place, right off the intersection of Woodbury and I-94. So let's get right down to it here. I'm going to throw a couple things out here. Kyla, what you were alluding to was the fact that since that divisional loss to the 49ers, the Vikings have not played a single game in the last 2 years with a above 500 record. We counted them up. It was 987 days. This is the first time in the history of Justin Jefferson's professional career that he has been on a winning team. A long overdue here. So I'm going to throw some hot takes at each one of you, and you guys can throw back to me what you want. So, Kyla, I'll start with you. Kevin O'Connell, is he finally unlocked the superpowers of Kirk Cousins? Is he making sure that JJ is always looked at? Unfortunately, last year we go complete halves without JJ getting a target here. What are your thoughts on Kevin O'Connell? We'll start with him.
From even the first drive of the game, it looked like a completely different offense. Going for it on 4th and 1 for starters, to go in for the kill on the first drive. And not only that, we didn't run it. He trusted it to put it in Kirk's hands and let him get it into the end zone. Number 2, Cousins, I thought looked so comfortable in the pocket yesterday. It's something I've never seen from him before. He was able to kind of step in and, make that huge long play to JJ early on in the game. And yeah, it's just running. Like, I thought we ran the ball well too, but it wasn't obvious when we were going to run the ball. Running it from even like lining up with the shotgun, like just so many differences. It was great to see.
Yeah, you mean to tell me that we didn't always run on 2nd and 9? I didn't have these stats in front of me there, but Mike, I'll throw that back to you. Same question here. Would you say that O'Connell has listen, it's 1 week, ladies and gentlemen, so let's not pretend that this has completely solved everything and that clearly Mike Zimmer was the problem here. But where do you see this going? Do you see this as sustainable, or do you see this as something that because we didn't have any tape on it, we heard that for weeks on end? What do you say you there as far as sustainability?
No, that's as sustainable as it gets. Now, do I think the defense is going to allow 7 points a game? No, they're going to allow points. But the offense and the culture, it's there. You that's ingrained now. That's the difference of being a good team that can have great stretches and actually being a great team that could be a legitimate NFC threat. And we're there. And I think we're ready to compete. Now, of course, we need to sustain this. And, of course, this needs to continue. But I am convinced that Kevin O'Connell is the guy to bring us where we need to go. Because, and we can talk about this, that, and the other. In my entire life, and I'm not being, ridiculous here, this is the first true leader of men I've ever seen this football team have in my entire life. And I'm not being funny. You could say a lot of things about Zim, Chogris, and Leslie Frazier. None of them were leaders. None of them. None of them. This is the first true leader this football team has had since Dennis Green. And I mean that with full conviction.
So what you're saying is you don't think that Brad Childress, who got us to the NFC Championship game by his incredible strategic feats, so you wouldn't say Brad Childress is in that group?
You're funny. You're a funny guy. We obviously know why. That was good, though. That was good.
All right. So we have to immediately get to Purple Pocket Podcast. Mike said the Packers are the clear favorite to win the NFC North. Let's talk about it. All right, Mike. Before we get to our next sizzling take here, defend yourself, and what do you got going on with that?
Look, I said this on Monday. I'm not going to take it back when it comes to the fact that let's relax before saying we've won the North. That is a stretch and a half. No, I said this on Monday, and Kyla will remember me saying it. Injuries could play a role. We did the prediction on Monday. Of course, the minute I knew those two tackles were on receivers, we're winning. I knew for a fact. Sunday morning, I woke up, couldn't be a better gift to start the season than the Packers being down their two top tackles. I knew we won the minute that happened. I still think the Packers are going to be a solid team. Now, maybe we do win the North, and I hope we do, but let's not go crazy. There's still a lot of games left for us to prove ourselves to win the North, because it's not going to be easy. The Packers aren't going to hand it to us. They are going to rebound. Watch what they do to Chicago this week. They're going to torture them.
To me, it was very obvious that a big reason why they lost obviously was the fact that Rodgers had no chemistry with his receivers. And I thought LaFleur I have no idea what he was trying to do. I expect much better from the Packers going forward. That's for sure.
And remember, last week one, they got destroyed by the Saints. Let's remember that. They got absolutely embarrassed. It happened again.
That's what I was just going to say. No, I don't think that they're going to win 13 games like they have the past couple of seasons. And we can say, well, this team started off with this record and then they ended with that. I totally agree. Let's get a couple more comments here real quick before I get to next talking point. Good evening, Kyla and Joseph. Well, don't forget Mike now, Toy Box. Don't forget Mike. Let's see what we got here. This one's a good one. Steven says O'Connell was the Rams special thought. Yeah, I mean, the Vikings are undefeated, and the Rams haven't won a game since Kevin O'Connell became the head coach. I mean, that's a little satirical there, but Rap is going to get in on this here real quick because he likes to go back and forth. Injuries or not, we have a better team. Okay, I'm going to say this. I think the Packers. I'm going to say it real quick, and then I'll let you go, Mike. I think the Packers' defense is better slightly than ours. Our defense is vastly improved, but it's 1 week and we went up against two backup tackles. So let's keep that in perspective. I think offensively, by and large, I'll take pretty much everything that the Vikings have over the Packers, but for their offensive line when it's healthy, that's debatable. Love it or not, Rodgers is still ahead of Kirk Cousins when you're looking at a 1-to-1 comparison. So I don't know which team at this particular point is better than another because to me it's too close. Now, yes, I think the Vikings at this point should – again, I've always had high expectations for them. Like, that I'm not going to just sit here and say, well, first-year coach, let's hope we make the playoffs. But, Green Bay might finally be reeling. And at the end of it, show me something. We're going to get to Philly here in a little while later in the show here, but – to that point there is, okay, you took care of business at home. So I'll throw it back to you on there. What say you on that, Mike?
Well, it's funny that Rap is, friendly, giving me the friendly jab here. He was the one that said he'd be happy with a playoff berth. So clearly he wasn't that confident we were winning the NFC North just a week ago. So, at the end of the day, it's week one. I do truly believe what I said about the culture changing. And this is going to be a more consistent unit when it comes to no letdown games. But the Packers are still a good. Let's not go crazy here. The Packers are going to win 5 games. Like that's not going to happen. Let's chill.
I'd love if they didn't win 5 games.
Oh, dude, I'd love to see them go 0-17. But like we're being honest with ourselves.
Yeah,
they're going to be in the race for the North. Like we're not. If we want to play these silly games, the Bears just beat the Niners. Are the Bears better than the Niners? Really? Like really? Does anyone actually believe that except Bears fans? You know what I mean?
No. I don't even think Bears fans are delusional enough to know that their team isn't better. Let me just wrap up talking point number 1. There were times last year, and it's funny, Justin Jefferson has all these records through his first 2 years, and in some ways he's been handcuffed. Remember, Hall of Famer to be Beezy Johnson started over him for the first 2 games of his rookie season. Okay, please explain that one to me. But in all seriousness, there were times where Justin Jefferson would get 7-8 targets in the first half and then 1 in the second half. The only thing I'm going to say is yesterday it was far more consistent. There was like 1, maybe 2 drives where he didn't get a target. And I'm not saying he's got to be Randy Ratio. I mean, I wouldn't mind if it was, but to me, I think Kevin O'Connell is going to do a better job of saying, no, he's my best player. I'm going to get the ball in his hands as quickly as possible. So the next take we had here is about the defense. So Kyla, we'll start with you again. Are Danielle Hunter and Zadaria Smith the best duo pass rushing in the NFL, or is it just one good week? Let's see how they do, and let's see if they stay healthy.
I got to say, one good week. We got to see what they can do. I love how often the line was getting to Rodgers yesterday. It was beautiful to see. But, yeah, I know with, Danielle and his, problem with injuries the last few years, I'm going to have to more like keep my fingers crossed and wait to see what happens in the next few weeks. But if they can stay healthy, that's going to be a killer duo for sure.
I'm going to throw a couple more chats up here. I thought the Packers defense is legit. They got, I think he meant they got smoked. No, absolutely. I think, again, we've heard all week about how good thing we got the Packers early because there's not going to be any tape on them and on our offense and all that nonsense. And maybe that had part to do with it. I'm just saying that if I could take one defense right now that I would want for 17 games, I still take theirs. They still got Kenny Clark. And again, listen, if Danielle Hunter and Zadaria Smith can stay healthy for 17 games, okay, that changes things. Jair Alexander is better than any cornerbacks that we have. So again, just that is where I went with that, but that's just my thought. What say you, Mike?
Again, let's not go crazy. And we've said this from the beginning, Justin, when we signed Zadaria Smith, that I love the move, and I think they are a top 5 edge rushing duo. But again, they got to stay healthy. Like that is no guarantee with these guys' injury histories. Look, I expected this to happen, edge rushing wise. The minute I seen those 2 tackles were out Christmas morning, I knew we were winning with confidence, and that's coming from me. You know how pessimistic I am. So the minute I say that, it's going well. But
right,
no, I think they're a great unit. Top. Oh, come on, it's hard. I mean, there's so many good D lines in football. To say they're number 1, I hope they are, but it's so early in the process. But they're going to be up there if they stay healthy.
Yeah, that's the key to this. If they stay healthy, if they each play 17 games, which is highly unlikely, they absolutely could be a top 3. You have to hope that if one of them misses 4 games here and another misses 3 games there, that they're not simultaneous. I was just about to throw Rick on, but he left the room here, so we'll continue on here. Let's get to some more chats here. This is a good one, Mike. This is how we know you have arrived here. Gasolino is showing swagger. I love that. I'm not entirely sure which portion of this it was, but hey.
I'd imagine the Christmas tree was part of that process. I'd imagine somewhere in there.
SKOL'd Mafia says Jalen Hurts in trouble. Listen, we'll get to that.
That I buy. Yes. Yes, sir.
That we'll get to in the end, but I would totally agree with you. Thanks for you guys. What you do? All right, cool. Let's see here. I love this one here, and let's get this one up there. Let's see how Kirk does away at Bills, Eagles, Saints, and Dolphins. That's a very good point.
Knew. Why? Come on. Be nice to the man. Be nice. He played well. Why do we got to do this? Why can't we celebrate Kirk Cousins' performance?
Not even one day.
maybe I should join the grade 8 this week. Maybe that's what I should do. We're going to be pessimistic over it. Give Kirk some love, people. Come on. He played really well. Come on.
All right. I'm going to throw it back like this. That's going to be another thing that we talk about here in just a moment when I get the percentage of praises. We'll say it like this. That was not statistically Kirk Cousins' best game of his career with the Vikings. But
No.
it is top 2 for me. The only other one that I would put ahead of that is the Seattle game last season, week 3. It was the first game we won last year. And people always want to bring up to me, well, the second half comeback against Denver where it was 4 touchdowns on 4 drives, comeback against the Packers to get a tie, 21 points in the fourth quarter.
Well, the Packers game last year, he went off in that game.
Correct. So, but to me, those 2 games, I'm not looking at that as complete games. Yeah. In order to have these ridiculous comebacks and ridiculous second halves or fourth quarters, that means you didn't do anything in the first half. So, a lot of chatters we got in here going tonight. And you know what, Steve, we're going to get back to yours here in just a moment there. You know what? This is a good point. They might not be Jair Alexander and Kenny Clark, but I agree. They do have a lot of quickness there. Not quite the end-to-end speed from top to bottom, but I do agree that by and large, there's a lot of equality there. Kyla, I'll start with you on that. Do you see what he's saying here, or what do you think on that?
I mean, yeah, like I was super happy. It was like complete opposite from basically every game except for this Seattle game maybe last year. It was just I thought all parts of the defense except for maybe the run game was a little at times, which I'm surprised why the Packers didn't run the ball more in that case. But I thought overall it looked much better. But like Mike said, just with the injuries that Green Bay had, I'll be more curious to see how the defense performs in Philadelphia. But great first week for them.
No, I don't disagree. Listen, you can only play who they send out there. They don't have to apologize for playing teams that are not at full strength. For just sure. Like, if the Vikings had some injuries and they lose a game, hey, that's not the other team's fault. So I am going to be interested to see. We got to remember that we were going up against the backup tackles we talked about earlier. And as has been said, Rodgers is absolutely not on the same page at all with his wide receiver.
Can I add one last thing just really fast?
Yeah.
Before everyone, and I know there's going to be people that do this, they will play, the backup tackles this time. They did take advantage of it. I have seen far too many times in my life with this team, with injuries from the other team, not taking advantage of it. So I'm all good with that. If they want to do that and hammer teams every time they're hurt, hey, you play teams on your schedule when you play them. If that's just circumstance. I love the way they took advantage of the situation. It was a great performance, top to bottom.
All right, so we're going to move into a new segment that we have here. It's called the Percentage of Praise. Now, if the Vikings lose, the segment will be called Daggers of Defeat. So we always got to have some alliteration in there. So I'm going to give my percentages on who I would give the most praise to percentage-wise for all of the Vikings players, coaches, staff, etc. And I'd like you guys to tell me if I'm too high or too low on any one of these. Is that all right? Okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so I give 5% to Greg Joseph. This guy, it wasn't a fluke in training camp where he's going bombs away. Yeah, pregame he missed one to the left and one to the right, but 56 yards out of nowhere. And again, I'm just so impressed by this guy. We did have the missed winning kick in Arizona last year, but talking about Kirk Cousins just feeling comfortable without Zimmer. You can say the same thing about Greg Joseph.
Yep.
I'll start with you on that. Do you have any disagreements on that?
Me?
Yeah.
No, Greg Joseph. I have never seen a kick from 56 yards from this team look that easy. He would have drilled that thing from 60 plus easily. That thing had at least 5 yards plus airtime left. Like that, he drilled that thing, and it wasn't particularly like. I said it though during the game with confidence. He's going to drill this. Just watch, and he did it. I know now what the problem was. At least it was the culture. It wasn't necessarily one person. It was the culture. When you play tight and stressed, players make mistakes, and you could tell they're playing free now. You could see it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I give 10% of the praise to the D line, specifically Danielle Hunter and Zadaria Smith. We've talked about them ad nauseum here, so I'll just move on to the next one here. But I remember when Zadarius, I don't know if it was a blitz or if it was just he came through, but he absolutely trucked Dillard on that. And not only did he truck him to the ground, he was still running after Aaron Rodgers at that particular point in time. So I think we've touched on that enough here. So now we're going to get to the interesting part. 15%. Kirk Cousins. As I said earlier, I think this is one of his best games. I think that he compensated a little bit for the holes on the offensive line. You know, he didn't scramble or get happy feet. He did a little of the Tom Brady two-step where, you know, he stepped up a little bit and just winged that ball to Jefferson. I'm starting to be impressed. And, again, it's 1 week, but as you just alluded to, Mike, it's a cultural thing. I'm not saying that I never said that wasn't the case, but I was a little iffy about whether we're just going to all in. Like, Kyla, do you think that's a good number? You think it's too low, too high? What are you thinking?
No, I'm good with that. I think that's fair. You know, he played great, but it definitely wasn't like his best game ever. But he didn't need to be some sort of hero yesterday. We built a pretty decent lead in the game pretty quickly. And, yeah, he just made plays when he had to. And there's only a brief time in the third quarter where I was even worried we might blow it. But, yeah, he got to Jefferson. He looked comfortable, like I mentioned earlier, which is a rarity to me. Yeah, he wasn't running around on the field. Yeah, he looked great. So I think 15% is fair.
All righty, we got 2 slices of pie left. I'm pretty sure we can all figure out who's going to get the biggest percentage here. But I now give 20% to Kevin O'Connell. Listen, the aggressive play calling and the willingness to not be content. Listen, that first drive, I was so impressed with the play design because JJ was coming in motion and, you know, generally the cornerbacks just kind of slide each one and they completely didn't quite get on the same page and it was almost too easy for him there. But I'm just going to say it like this. I don't think he's going to be this, I'm going to go for it on every 4th down and I'm not going to kick field goals. I'm going to just try and go for a touchdown. I'm not saying that. But what I am going to say is the willingness to be a offense that is actually current. 8 out of the first 10 plays were passes. Normally we talk about running to set up the pass. No, in this NFL, you pass to set up the run, and I think the Vikings absolutely did that in spades. Last one here, 50% to the man himself, Justin Jefferson. I'm kind of an on there. And what's really funny about all this, there were times where he was open and he could have had 250 yards. Now, I don't think that that's going to be the case all season because eventually teams are going to be like, okay, we can take away Thielen and we can take away Irv Smith and we can shut Dalvin Cook down, but we can't let JJ beat us. The old adage is don't let their best player beat you. So we'll see what happens next week when they go on the road, both from a Cousins standpoint, a JJ standpoint, and the rest of the offense. I mean, Adam Thielen with only 3 catches, I couldn't believe it was that low, but, you know, you run to the hot hand. So to go back through them one more time, Jefferson 50%, O'Connell 20%, Kirk 15%, defensive line 10%, Greg Joseph 5%. Kyla, I'll start with you. Overall, do you think my numbers on? Do you think I gave too much praise one, not enough to another? What are your thoughts?
I would maybe I would give a bit more to Kevin O'Connell because, I mean, the reason why Jefferson, not to take away from Jefferson at all, he's God on the football field to me, but Kevin O'Connell's scheme to have him all over the place. He was able to get open so many times, and the Packers just had no answer for that at all. So that would be my only thing. I would say that Kevin O'Connell deserves maybe a few more percentages for his game plan yesterday.
All right, fair enough. Mike, you think anybody else got left off the list that, you know, it's like, wait a second, how did you do that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think maybe I'm a little crazier. I would be more cutting in thirds. I just love the way it was just a team effort. It was of course there was individual brilliance with JJ, the way he was. I mean, he's JJ. He's ridiculous. He's the best receiver in the league. And no, I don't want to hear Cooper Kupp crap. No, I'm done with that. No.
I'm so sick of hearing that.
I love Cooper Kupp. I watched him on Thursday. He's amazing. He's the Rams offense. The difference is JJ gets that open. You have no choice but to throw him the ball. With the team, the one guy I guess I'd give more credit to from your particular list, maybe I'm trying to get into good books here, but Kirk. And at the end of the day, we can't sit here and say, well, we need more than big games. This is as big of a statement when they've had a long time. The fact that he actually has a winning record against Aaron Rodgers, that's pretty incredible. And you got to give him credit for that. Like, at the end of the day, we saw what we looked like last year with Sean Mannion in there against the same Packers. Now, obviously, Devontae Adams was there, but you get my point. Kirk Cousins with Kevin O'Connell, that relationship, I think it's going to get us a long way this season. And I think people aren't ready for this statement, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think there's a word, starts with an E and ends with an N, extension. It's coming. And I don't think a lot of people are going to be particularly happy. But if he keeps playing like this, if this is his middle game, his norm, you have to pay him. If this is what happens as his norm, there's no option. Like, if they're going to win 12, 13 games if he continues this form. It's a big if, and he's got to prove it. But this is his moment, and he started it great. And I got to give him credit for that.
I will say this. I agree with everything of what you said up until the last one, where if this was the norm, because that defensive performance, we cannot expect
I'm talking about him. Singular Kirk Cousins performance. No, you can't sustain. That defense will regress. I mean, it's not going to allow 7 points a game. But I'm saying the way Kirk, there was not one poison ball. There was not one pass at Kirk. What do you do? The only thing I'd say that Kirk did wrong, and I'm nitpicking, is that delay game. That angered me a lot because it screwed us and we had to end up punting because of it. So that's the only thing, though, he did wrong the entire game. Like, it was a solid 7 out of 10 performance.
No, what I was saying, Mike, is if the defense doesn't have the kind of game that they had yesterday, the game that Kirk Cousins played, as efficient, as good as it was, might not be enough to win a game with your defense. Yeah, if your defense only gives up 7 points a game, obviously, that performance would do that. I'm saying that you have to expect that their defense is going to regress, as you said, and that the offense is going to have to pick up the load a little bit more.
The only reason I say I was so impressed with Kirk is the fourth quarter, they didn't need to go for it. There was no reason to. That's why I think they played it the way they did. I think there was more yards left on the field, but intentionally. Kill clock, make the Packers run out of time. Why force the pass when you don't need to? Like, I think in a different game, Kirk would have opened it up and would have had over 300 yards. They just didn't need to. And the run game, no one's talking about it. Two running backs for us still went over 100 yards combined. Like, it was a perfect performance aside from a delayed game penalty. Like, and the deep ball. That was a mistake by the secondary. The secondary, we can nitpick more because Pappy, not his best day. Let's just put it that way.
Well, actually, that does bring us to the next section here, which is called nitpicks. No. So when the Vikings lose, we'll give silver linings. When they win, we'll give nitpicks to say, well, it can't be as perfectly great as a win looked like, and it can't be as bad as a defeat looks like. So, Kyla, I will start with you, since Mike and I have gone for a little bit. My first nitpick would be the run defense. Now, I understand that they kind of sold out to make sure that they put pressure on Rodgers, and they got, 4 or 5 sacks, that's all well and good, but they still got gashed in the running game. What do you see as the key here moving forward to be able to shore that run defense up there a little bit?
I don't know. It was bad last year and didn't look good yesterday either. Like, that's why I think I said earlier in the show, I'm just surprised Green Bay didn't run the ball a lot more. I think they only ran it like 13 times or something like that. But I'm not really sure what they're gonna.
Well, I'll throw it back to you this way. Yeah. I should have said this like this. Now that the week 1 is over, veteran contracts are not guaranteed. We've heard ad nauseum this Ndamukong Suh discussion. We talked about it last week, Mike, where Ndamukong Suh is interested, but he wants, $8 million.
He can't stop the run. That's not his thing. He's not a run stuffer.
Yeah, exactly. So Doogie said, and again, I'm just quoting him. Doogie said that the Vikings would be interested in veterans minimum. That was going to be my question. Does that really do anything for you at all?
Me? No.
Yeah, I don't want. Does it do anything for you, Mike?
I don't want Ndamukong Suh. Why does everyone keep? I'm sorry. The Dominic Sue, what we remember, the guy he used to torture. I mean, Vetman, sure, but he's not going to sign Vetman. He's not.
Right.
He wants $8 to $10 million, and there's not a chance on God's green earth I want to get anywhere close to that. He's finished as a player for that type of salary. Like that would be a horrible, horrible decision. Quesi's too smart for that. There's no way, no way. I'd be mad if they do that.
Well, the reason I brought that up is Tueva came in here with us to sign Sue. And okay, I just got your opinions on Sue. Kyla, what would you say on Odell Beckham? You think that would do anything, or do you think that would be looking in the past too much?
Look, I mean, he's still a good player, but I see no benefit to us to bring him in. Like, we've already got such a good tight wide receiver core, and I don't want there to be any chance of that messing up anything. Like, JJ is better than him. He's going to get the ball. I would just worry, like, Odell Beckham Jr. would come in and cry about not getting the ball enough. Just stuff like that. I just don't, like, the negatives, potential negatives sort of outweigh the positives to me.
Yeah, again, this isn't the guy of 7 years ago. So time to give one extra bit of praise. Oh, Mike, before I do, Mike, what do you got?
Odell, he's not going to end up in Minnesota, but if he did, this is where I actually respectfully disagree. Look what he did with the Rams. We run the same offense. And yes, he's coming off a torn knee. I get that. But he was a different player when he got to LA. I thought he was finished too. I had him in fantasy with Cleveland. I was so angry with what he was doing in the Browns. I dropped him. And then he ends up going to LA and has a really good fantasy season after that. No, if he goes to Minnesota, which I honestly think he's going to Buffalo, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
If we're playing this game where he goes to Minnesota, I love it. I mean, him and JJ are like best buddies. Remember, JJ wore a shirt when the Browns cut him about talking about like letting Odell go or something, letting him be free. Now they're good pals. They both went to LSU. I would be over the moon if we signed him. That's just not going to happen though.
For at what cost though?
Well, it has to be cheap. No, I'm with you on that. But I think he'll sign a cheap deal.
I feel like he would only go somewhere for cheap if it's like a
I agree. That's why I agree. But we're saying, what if we can sign him or Sue for the vet minimum? It's not particularly close in my mind. Sue, like everyone just keeps thinking Sue is this great. Go and look at the stats. He's a pass rusher now. He cannot stop the run. He will get gashed. He's not the player of yesterday. Odell is much younger, and for the vet minimum, you'd be laughing. But if he does, like Kyla said, and I agree, the only teams he's going to sign for is teams that are considered contenders. And we're not that today. We're not. If we're being fair, we're not that today.
I would tend to agree. Again, for a depth wide receiver, I mean,
no, Cage is dense. Sorry.
So,
no, Cage is eating the pine all day, twice on Sundays. Literally, no. He's instantly wide receiver 3. It's not my fingers. Easily. His ability, I'm telling you, I watched a lot of Rams football last year.
Yeah.
Well, you instantly insert him as wide receiver 3 once he's back. Not even close. Sorry, Cage. I love you. I think you're a good player, but no. Levels.
I think I'll meet you guys both in the middle. Kyla has a very good point that if Odell Beckham is not satisfied with his role and becomes, an issue in the locker room, although I said, as you say, he does have some college allies in there, so that I do think that would be a minimal situation because he's got friends in the Vikings locker room. But, Kyla does make a good point. You don't want to bring somebody in who hasn't been with you, for training camp unless they can really improve the team. Now, with how many 3 wide receivers and 4 wide receiver sets that they want to run, to have another depth piece would not necessarily be a bad thing. I disagree with you wholeheartedly, Mike, that Odell can immediately bump KJ. Maybe, on rotation, but I don't know about bumping him out completely there. So, again, I'll meet you guys halfway. If they did it and they felt that he could, help the team, that's fine. I'm not clamoring for him. I'm not clamoring for Ndamukong Suh either. He would just be another depth piece. He wouldn't be a starter. Okay, fine. I mean, you get him for veterans minimum, I suppose. But Jeff wants to throw this out here when we're talking about both Sue and Odell Beckham. Vikings are a contender. Well, it's possible. We're going to get
Agreed.
We got about 10 minutes left here because we wanted to finish up before Monday Night Football starts. But at the same time, after 1 week, can we label this team a contender? Or are we just got to see more? Kyla, I'll side with you, Kyla.
No, not yet. It's only week 1. And what did we witness yesterday? It was wild. There was a lot happening. Yeah. There was some shocking scores all over the place. And I think, Mike, you might have said last week, it's so true. When you don't have your starters playing in preseason games or at all, just a lot of teams are going to come out looking shaky. Luckily, it wasn't Minnesota looking shaky, but yeah, it's going to take multiple games. If they go into Philadelphia and kick ass, I'll be feeling a lot better, and then so on and so on. And like I said, as great as it is, and I thought they looked great. I thought Green Bay, the whole game was a disaster for them. The scheme, I don't understand any of it. So I want to see them be tested a little more, because I didn't find yesterday to be much of a test for them. Next week will be, though.
No, most definitely. Getting back to a comment that I saved from Stephen earlier. Let's see how he does in those big games. He's dead on accurate. The Bills game.
Nice though. But he can't do anything. It's the poor guy. He gives 2 game balls out. He does a speech. He shows the leadership. Let's give him praise. I'm sorry. And this is one thing that really hurts me. He did his job yesterday. No other quarterback gets the what if. Well, let's wait till Monday. I'm sick of this. I'm sorry. No disrespect. Give him his flowers. He earned it. No other quarterback has this energy. Joe Burrow threw 4 picks yesterday. Okay? And he was about to win a game, and everyone would have praised him. I hate that Kirk Cousins can't get a break. It annoys me so much. And I'm not trying to be my inner Joe Spinoza here. But let's give him praise when he deserves it. Stop talking about the future. Let's wait till those games happen. Let's give him a break.
Just to be clear, I don't want to put words into the mouth of the commenter, but I don't take the comment that way. When he says, let's see how he does away at Bills, Eagles, Saints, and Dolphins. First off, Saints is neutral site, but be that as it may, I don't know that was – I mean, if I were to say that was great, I hope he can take it. Is that all that much different than this? I don't know. I don't know if there was a negative connotation.
I don't think he was perfect yesterday. I'm just saying.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Kirk Cousins, right? We asked him, we want to see more consistent, solid games. Just avoid the disaster games. That's the definition of what we want. When we paid him. I just want to make this clear. I'm not some sort of Kirk Cousins homer. I don't think he's better than Joe Burrow. I'm not going to lose my head here. What I'm saying is, let's give him flowers when he deserves it, because I will critique him when he's bad, and there is probably going to be a game where I'm not speaking with the same energy. That's why I want to be fair today.
No, that's fine. I mean, like I said, we hit it on the air earlier. I think that's a top 5 performance by him since he's been a Viking. All right, we're going to get to a few more comments here. You know what? There's a lot of repetitions here. But having said all that, we're actually going to get a little bit early, because I think the Monday Night Football game is kicking off a little bit early here. So the last thing that I was going to say about Cousins, one way or the other, last year he was the 20th ranked quarterback under pressure. Okay. In this game, it is only one game, but on 42% of his dropbacks, he was under pressure yesterday. And he was 7 of 13 for 136 yards and a touchdown. That currently ranks as number 3 in the NFL pending tonight's results. So, again, one game, but, that's part of the thing that I've always said is, what can he do with pressure? I'm not asking him to be Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes back there, but there were times where, again, I don't want to keep harping on one play, but when he stepped up and stutter stepped and then winged it down I think he got down to the 15. That's the kind of play that we've been dying to see from him. So
exactly. That's all I'm saying.
Last but not least, we're going to touch a little bit on next week's game. A reminder, we are always on from 6:30 Central to 7:15. So next week we will actually be the pregame show, since there's no game for us to review. With that being said, Kyla, I'll start with you. What are your initial thoughts? And again, I know we're going to have a show that's closer to, it's going to be on next week, but what are your initial thoughts on what the Vikings can and cannot do in Philly next week?
Oh, we're going to have to make sure our secondary is hella ready. Like they weren't tested much yesterday for obvious reasons, except they almost got Patrick Peterson almost got severely burned.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily a drop ensued after, but that's going to be a key for me. Getting the ball to Jefferson, obviously, that's a huge one. I would say offensively more of the same that what we saw yesterday, kind of a variety of different plays, but yeah, I don't know. I think we can win. Why not? So,
Mike, early reactions to what do you think the Vikings need to do? I'm going to say it like this. Since she took that, what do you see the keys for the game a week ahead defensively?
Okay, so keys to the game defensively. Remember, I had this game circled as a win. Remember when we did the schedulers? I had the Packers game as a loss, so I'm over the moon right now. The key for me is two things. Stop the run, which I actually think they did better than – this is where we actually disagree. Though they gave up a good amount of yards, it was really just athletic freak plays from Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon where they were in position. They broke them. And they're great backs. Like they really are. Just continue to stop the run. I think Harrison Phillips had a really good day yesterday. Dalvin Thompson was really good. They continue to play the exact same against Miles Sanders, who team not him at fantasy is not the same player. We're good. And do not let A.J. Brown beat you. Simple. You cannot let him beat you because Jalen Hurts, you take his first read away, he is a different player and not in a good way. He will make talk about poison balls. When he plays really high-level pass rush defenses, he throws some of the worst atrocious passes in the NFL, like the entire league. He's atrocious when he's off. Force him to beat you with the pass.
Okay. Well, again, we're going to, have the show next weekend leading into the actual game. So, again, I believe that I think SK said he might be joining us next Monday night or that he and Rick might do something earlier in the day. All across the bottom of the screen here, we've had the different shows and different times that we have on the Purple Code here during the season. I'll just read them off. Again, we've got SKOL'd Live with Rap and Dave. That's tomorrow night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. The greatest Kirk Cousins show of all time, which is called The Great Eight with Rick and Joe. That's Wednesdays at 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. SKOL'd Spotlight with Jamie and Casey is 7 Eastern, 6 Central on Thursdays. Fridays is kind of a free-for-all. We haven't completely nailed down. We might do some fantasy talk. We might do some pick-em talk. We haven't quite figured that one out yet. But SKOL'd Report late night with SK on Saturdays from 8:30 Eastern to 7:30 Eastern. That's one you don't want to miss because that's the closest one to the game, sans the pregame show, where SK will really give his insights there. And, of course, you know what? I'm going to throw this one back up here. The pregame shows will be at 11 a.m. Eastern. Again, this is assuming a new game. 3 o'clock games might get pushed up back a few hours, or we might still do it at the same time, but we kind of like to lead right into the start of the game. And we will also be doing a post-game show. Generally speaking, we'll have that about 7:45 Eastern up until the start of Sunday Night Football, much like our show here tonight. So last comments, Kyla, anything else that we haven't hit on? Well, you know what? Let me try it before I get you that comment. Let me see if there's any yeah. Oh, I think I put that one up there. And let's see.
Yeah. He is in trouble.
Buccaneers. All right, Steve, you know what? Come back on Monday, Steven, and let us know what you're thinking on there when you say that they are scary.
They gave up 35 points to the Lions. Is everyone just disregarding that? They gave 35 points to the Detroit Lions with Jared Goff. Without their first-round pick wide receiver because he's hurt, and Jameson Williams. No. I never – can someone explain to me the Eagles side? Please. Why? They have A.J. Brown. That doesn't make them 4 wins better than last season. Hurts is not a good quarterback. He's just okay. He's just okay. Anyway.
Kyla, any last words before we get out of here?
Nah, yeah. I mean, I'm with Mike. I just think they've got a lot of talent on their roster, but Hurts doesn't really particularly scare me either.
All righty. Well, we'll do some more breaking down there. So that is going to wrap up this episode of A Day in Mike with Kyla. We will again be back on same time next week. All right, Mike, what do you got?
Just quick. 2 things. Broncos Nation, let's ride. Let Russ cook today. I have never said those words in my life. I hope Seattle gets destroyed. I can't stand the Seahawks.
Ew, no, I hate Seattle, but I can't stand Russell. He's so annoying. So I'm cheering for the Seahawks today.
Well, maybe it'll end up in a tie. How about that? Like the other game yesterday. So that's going to wrap up this edition of A Day with Mike and Kyla. Please tune in again next week. And again, keep your eyes on the Purple Code, Facebook, as well as YouTube. Hit that subscribe and notification button. Again, we got daily shows pretty much throughout the entire season. And the tagline on our show is steal from Purple Daily, but that's all right because Purple Daily stole it from us. No matter what you think about the quarterback, what do you think about the head coach or certain players, listen, don't care. All we want to do is see the Vikings win one Super Bowl before we die. Thank you kindly. Y'all have a great rest of your night. And SKOL'd, everybody.
SKOL.
SKOL.